To success.
To success.
To success.
To success.
There's a moment that happens to everyone. Usually right before something amazing could happen in your life. Your heart starts racing, your hands get sweaty, and suddenly you find yourself doing everything except the one thing that could change everything. You probably call it fear of failure. But what if I told you that's not what you're afraid of at all? What if the thing you fear most isn't failure, but the terrifying possibility that you might actually succeed? What if every time you've messed up your own life, you weren't protecting yourself from disappointment? You were protecting yourself from your own power. Carl Jung discovered something that changes everything about why we run from our potential. And by the end of this journey, you'll understand that the war you've been fighting isn't against your limits. It's against the very thing that could set you free. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that doesn't show you as you are, but as you could be. Most people take one look and immediately turn away. But what if that reflection isn't showing you a stranger? What if it's showing you something you've been running from your entire life? The person you're most afraid of becoming, that's who you've always been. And that truth is about to change everything. Right now, there's a war happening inside you. Not the kind you read about in history books, but something way more personal. It's the battle between who you are today and who you could become tomorrow. And here's the crazy part. You're fighting on the wrong side. Let me tell you about Jessica. She spent 2 years building her side business, dreaming of the day she could finally quit her soul-crushing corporate job. When that day came, when her business was making enough money, something strange happened. The night before she planned to turn in her resignation letter, she found herself picking fights with her husband about dishes. She suddenly convinced herself she needed just 1 more month to be sure. She even started doubting whether her business was real enough. Jessica isn't alone. I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. The artist who destroys their masterpiece the day before the gallery opening, the entrepreneur who sabotages their biggest deal, the person who breaks up with someone amazing because things were getting too good. You probably called it procrastination. Maybe you blamed stress or bad timing. But what if I told you this wasn't weakness? It was war. Carl Jung discovered something that changes everything about how we understand people. He found that deep inside each of us live 2 opposing sides, your current self and your potential self, and they're in a fight to the death for control of your life. Your current self, it knows exactly who you are. It's comfortable with your limits, familiar with your failures, and scared to death of change. It whispers, "Stay safe. Don't rock the boat. Remember what happened last time you tried?" This part of you has spent years telling yourself to be realistic about what you can do. But your potential self? That's the version of you that could write the book, start the company, fix the relationship, or become the leader. It's everything you're capable of becoming, and your current self sees it as the enemy. Here's what scientists have found about this fight inside you. When you're getting close to your potential, your brain literally thinks you're in danger. There's an alarm system in your head that can't tell the difference between a hungry lion and a job interview for your dream job. Both make it scream, run, hide, fight, do something. This is why you mess things up right before breakthrough moments. Your brain thinks getting better equals dying, so it creates distractions, makes up problems, or fills you with doubt to pull you back into the safe zone of who you've always been. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how relationship drama always seems to pop up right before you're about to level up at work? Or how you suddenly can't make decisions when you're about to do something that could change your life? That's not bad luck. That's your current self fighting to survive. But here's the mind-blowing part. This war isn't happening in some imaginary place. Scientists can actually watch it happen in your brain. When people who've been hurt or told they're not good enough get close to their potential, certain parts of their brain light up, the same parts that light up when they're in real physical danger. Your brain has been trained to see positive change as a threat. Every time you've been told you're dreaming too big, every time someone said, "Be realistic," every time you failed and felt that crushing shame, your brain recorded those moments as proof that reaching for your potential is dangerous. So now, whenever you see that person you could become in the mirror of possibility, Your whole body jumps into action to protect you from yourself. The war you don't know you're fighting isn't against other people or bad circumstances or rotten luck. It's against the very thing inside you that could set you free. Your biggest enemy isn't out there. It's the part of you that's terrified of your own power. And that fear, it's about to get way more complicated than you think. Remember Jessica from before? Here's what she never told anyone about that night she sabotaged her escape from corporate hell. As she sat there picking that pointless fight about dishes, a terrifying thought flashed through her mind. What if I actually succeed? What if people expect me to keep succeeding? What if I can't handle being the person everyone looks up to? That thought lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it was enough to send her into full self-destruction mode. This is where Jung's discovery gets really twisted. He found that we're not just afraid of failing, we're absolutely terrified of succeeding. And there's a dark psychological reason why. Jung called it the shadow, not your weaknesses or your flaws, but something far more dangerous. Your disowned strengths. All the power, talent, and potential you've been taught to hide, deny, or feel guilty about. The parts of yourself you've been conditioned to believe are too much. Think about it. When you were a kid, what happened when you showed your natural confidence? Were you told you were showing off? When you expressed your creativity, were you reminded to be realistic? When you demonstrated leadership, were you accused of being bossy? Every time you got that message, spoken or unspoken, you learned to hide that part of yourself in the shadows. You made it the enemy. And now, whenever success threatens to bring those qualities into the light, your whole system panics. Let me tell you about Marcus, a brilliant software engineer who spent 3 years developing a revolutionary app. When tech companies started reaching out with million-dollar offers, he didn't celebrate. Instead, he became convinced the code was probably stolen from somewhere else. He started telling people he got lucky and didn't really deserve the attention. He even considered turning down the offers because he felt like a fraud. Marcus wasn't suffering from low self-esteem. He was terrified of his own genius. This is what Jung discovered that changes everything. We don't sabotage ourselves because we think we're not good enough. We sabotage ourselves because deep down, we know we are good enough, and that scares us to death. Your shadow isn't your darkness. It's your unused light. It's every compliment you deflected, every achievement you downplayed, every moment you made yourself smaller to make others comfortable. And when success threatens to expose that light, your shadow fights back. Here's the psychological trap. The very qualities that could make you successful are the same ones you've learned to suppress. Your natural leadership became bossiness. Your confidence became arrogance. Your ambition became selfishness. Your intelligence became showing off. So when opportunity knocks, when that promotion appears, when someone wants to invest in your idea, when someone amazing wants to love you, your brain doesn't think finally, it thinks danger. Because success means you'll have to own those disowned parts of yourself. It means you can't hide behind being small anymore. It means people will see your full power, and you've been conditioned to believe that's dangerous. Research shows that people with what they call fear of success aren't afraid of the work or the responsibility. They're afraid of being seen as the powerful person they actually are. They're afraid that success will expose them as someone who was always capable of greatness but chose to play small. This is why that war we talked about gets so vicious right before breakthrough moments. Your current self isn't just fighting to stay comfortable, it's fighting to keep your power hidden in the shadows where it feels safe. But here's what your current self doesn't understand. Keeping your light in the shadows isn't protecting you. It's killing you slowly from the inside. And your brain, it's about to show you just how far it will go to keep you from stepping into that light. So Jessica's shadow fought back, and Marcus felt like a fake. But here's the part that will blow your mind. This isn't just happening in your head. Your own body is literally working against you. Let me tell you about David, a talented musician who finally got invited to try out for his dream band. The night before the tryout, something weird happened. His heart started racing for no reason. His hands got sweaty. He couldn't sleep. By morning, he felt so sick he almost didn't go. When he did show up, he played terribly, shaking, forgetting parts he'd known for years. David thought he was just nervous, but scientists now know something crazy. His brain was treating that tryout like his life was in danger, literally. Here's what researchers found that changes everything about why we mess up our success. Your brain has an old alarm system that's supposed to protect you from danger. It's the same system that would have saved your great-great-grandparents from wild animals. But here's the problem. It can't tell the difference between a hungry lion and your biggest chance to succeed. Think about it. When you're about to do something that could change your life, apply for that job, start that business, tell someone you love them, what happens to your body? Your heart pounds, your hands sweat, you feel dizzy or sick. You can't think straight. Your brain is screaming, "Danger! Run! Hide!" Not because you're actually in danger, but because getting better feels like dying to your body. Scientists can actually watch this happen now. When people who've been hurt or told they're not good enough get close to their potential, certain parts of their brain light up bright red on the scans. The same exact parts that light up when they're facing real danger. Your brain has been taught to see good change as a threat. Every time you've been put down for dreaming big, every time someone said, "Don't get your hopes up," every time you tried and failed and felt that awful shame, your brain saved those moments as proof that reaching for your potential could hurt you. So now whenever you're about to shine, your whole body jumps into emergency mode. It floods you with stress stuff that makes you want to run, hide, or fight. It shuts down your ability to think clearly. It makes your hands shake and your voice crack. This is why Jessica picked that fight about dishes. This is why Marcus convinced himself he was a fake. This is why David's hands shook during the most important tryout of his life. Their brains weren't trying to hurt them. Their brains were trying to save them from what looked like certain death. Here's the crazy part. Your body thinks staying small equals staying alive. It's set up to keep you in the safe zone of who you've always been, even if that zone makes you miserable. You know that feeling when you're about to do something important and suddenly you forget, or you run out of time, or you tell yourself it's not the right moment? That's not because you don't want it. That's your brain literally taking over your behavior to protect you from growing. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how you can be totally confident about small things, but when it comes to the big stuff, the stuff that could actually change your life, you suddenly become a different person? Worried, unsure, frozen? That's because small changes don't set off the alarm. But when you're getting close to your real potential, when you're about to step into that bigger version of yourself, your brain hits the panic button. The war between your current self and your potential self isn't just in your mind. It's in your body. It's in your blood. It's happening in every part of you. Your body is literally hooked on being the person you've always been. And like any addiction, when you try to break free, you feel terrible. But here's what your brain doesn't get. The very thing it's trying to protect you from, becoming who you're meant to be, is actually what will save you. And there's one more layer to this betrayal that's even more twisted than you think. So Jessica's shadow fought back. Marcus felt like a fake, and David's body turned against him. But here's the twisted part that ties it all together. You're not just afraid of success, you're totally hooked on being the person you've always been. Let me tell you about Maria, a great teacher who spent 5 years dreaming of writing a kid's book. She had awesome ideas, parents loved her stories, and kids begged for more. But every time she sat down to write, she'd hear this voice. "You're just a teacher. Real writers went to fancy schools. Real writers have talent. You're being silly." Maria wasn't hearing her mom's voice or her old English teacher's voice. She was hearing the voice of her own identity, the person she'd convinced herself she was supposed to be. Here's what experts found that changes everything. Your identity isn't who you really are. It's a prison you've built around yourself to feel safe. And the scariest part? You've gotten so comfortable in this prison that freedom feels like dying. Think about it. When someone asks, "Who are you?" what do you say? "I'm not good with money." I'm not a people person. I'm not creative. I'm not leader material. Notice how many of your answers start with I'm not? You've spent years building an identity around what you can't do. And now when success tries to break that identity, you freak out. Because if you're not the struggling artist, the stressed out parent, the person who never gets lucky, then who are you? Your brain would rather keep you miserable and familiar than happy and unknown. It's like being in a bad relationship with yourself. The pain sucks, but at least you know what to expect. Scientists have found that people will actually choose familiar pain over unfamiliar happiness. They've done studies where people had the chance to make their lives better, but they messed it up because the new version of themselves felt too scary. This is why Maria kept telling herself she was just a teacher. This is why Jessica picked that fight about dishes. This is why Marcus convinced himself he was a fake. This is why David's hands shook. They weren't afraid of failing. They were terrified of winning because winning meant they'd have to become someone new. And becoming someone new feels like dying. Here's the trap. The identity you're protecting so hard isn't even real. It's just a story you've been telling yourself based on things that happened years ago. That voice telling Maria she was just a teacher? It came from one comment her college professor made 15 years earlier. You're not protecting your true self. You're protecting a lie that's keeping you small. But here's the part that will blow your mind. Your potential self isn't some stranger you need to become. It's who you already are underneath all the stories you've been telling yourself. Remember that war we talked about? It's not between two different people. It's between the real you and the fake you. The real you is the one with the dreams, the ideas, the natural talents. The fake you is the one with all the I'm not statements. Maria's real self was the storyteller who amazed kids every day. Her fake self was the just a teacher who wasn't allowed to dream bigger. Your identity prison has thick walls made of old beliefs, past failures, and what other people think. But here's what's crazy. You're both the prisoner and the guard. You built the walls, you hold the key, and you're the only one stopping yourself from walking out. The reason you mess up your success isn't because you don't deserve it. It's because success means admitting you were never the limited person you thought you were in the first place. It means admitting you've been living a lie. And that's terrifying, because if you're not the person you've always believed yourself to be, then everything could change. Your relationships, your choices, your entire life could transform. But what if that change isn't something to fear? What if it's something you've been waiting for your whole life? The key to your prison is about to be revealed. So Jessica fought her shadow, Marcus felt like a fake, David's body turned against him, and Maria lived in a prison she built herself. But here's the key that unlocks everything. The very thing you're running from is the thing that will set you free. Let me tell you what happened to all of them when they finally stopped running. Jessica realized that her fear of quitting her job wasn't about money or safety. It was about admitting she could do so much more than she'd let herself believe. So she did something bold. She accepted that she was scared and she quit anyway. Not because the fear went away, but because she finally got it that the fear was just her old self trying to protect a lie. Marcus stopped calling his success luck and started calling it what it was, the result of his talent. He accepted that he was exactly as good as his results showed. The fake feeling didn't go away overnight, but he learned to say, "Thanks for trying to protect me, but I've got this." David learned to welcome his shaking hands before big shows. Instead of fighting the fear, he'd tell his body, "I know you're trying to keep me safe, but this is what growing feels like." His hands still shake sometimes, but now he plays through it. And Maria? She wrote her book, not because she stopped being just a teacher, but because she realized that being a teacher who writes books was exactly who she was meant to be. The voice that told her she wasn't good enough, she learned to hear it as her old identity throwing a fit. Here's what scientists have found about people who break this pattern. They don't get rid of the fear. They change how they deal with it. Instead of seeing fear as a stop sign, they see it as a compass pointing toward their growth. This is called radical acceptance. Not accepting that you're limited, but accepting that you're unlimited. And that's scary as hell. The war we talked about? It ends when you realize there was never really a war. Your current self and your potential self aren't enemies. Your current self is just a scared kid trying to protect you from getting hurt again. And your potential self, that's just you without the armor. Think about it. What if every time you felt that familiar fear, that urge to mess things up, that voice telling you to stay small, what if you said, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm ready to be who I really am"? What if instead of fighting the fear, you brought it along for the ride? What if you realized that feeling like a fake just means you're growing into someone new? What if your shaking hands and racing heart aren't signs of danger, but signs that you're finally alive? Here's the truth that changes everything. You're not becoming someone different. You're becoming someone real. The person you were always meant to be before the world taught you to be afraid of your own power. Every time you've messed up your own success, you were actually protecting something special, your potential. But you don't need to protect it anymore. You need to live it. The mirror I mentioned at the beginning, the one that shows you glimpses of who you could become, here's the secret. It's not showing you a different person. It's showing you who you already are underneath all the stories, all the fears, all the "I'm not" statements. That reflection isn't your potential self. It's your true self. And it's been waiting for you to stop running and come home. The war is over. You won. You always were the person you were afraid to become. Now the question isn't whether you can be great. The question is, are you ready to stop pretending you're not? Your potential isn't something you need to reach for. It's something you need to stop running from. And that starts right now with whatever you're avoiding, whatever you're afraid of, whatever feels too big for who you think you are. Because you're not who you think you are. You're who you've always been afraid you might actually be. And that person is amazing. Remember that mirror I mentioned at the beginning? The one that shows you not as you are, but as you could be. Here's what I want you to understand now. That reflection was never showing you a stranger. It was never showing you who you could become. It was showing you who you've always been. Underneath all the stories, all the fears, all the "I'm not" stuff you've been carrying around, the person you're most afraid of becoming, that's who you've always been. And that's not something to fear. That's something to come home to. So the next time you feel that familiar fear, that urge to mess things up, that voice telling you to stay small, remember, it's not your enemy. It's trying to protect something special about you. Thank it for keeping you safe, and then ask yourself, what is it protecting? And am I ready to take care of it myself? This changes everything about how you see success, failure, and your own power. Now I want you to think about this. If you're already the person you're meant to be, what does that mean for how you show up in the world tomorrow? How does it feel to know that you're not broken, not behind, not missing anything, but actually protecting something special? If this journey has changed how you see yourself, you're ready for the deeper stuff. Subscribe to join thousands of people who are done running from their potential and ready to come home to themselves. Because the truth is, you're not becoming who you're meant to be. You're remembering who you've always been.